Hey there, listeners, and welcome to Project Zero, Season 2. The goal is the same as last year. We're going to hear the journeys of some of the best project leaders in the game, but this season's a little different. We're going to talk a little bit more about AI. We have to, right? That's the requirement on all these shows nowadays, but we are seeing a big impact on AI in the industry, and I'm excited to hear what our guest has to say about that today. My name is Alex Tuck, and I am the host. I am here with IT Program and Project Manager, Claudia Wright. Welcome to the podcast, Claudia. I'm excited to hear about your Project Zero.
Thanks, Alex, for having me.
Yeah, Claudia, start us off. What kind of work do you do?
I am an IT project program manager is my background. I've been in the IT field for over 25 years. My background in coming into IT and IT project management started really as an admin. I was a single mom at the time, and I went to some technical classes, and I was doing some data entry, learning data entry on, if you can believe it, e-punch cards. That was the training, but I landed the job as data entry and then started being an admin assistant and got into the government, EPA. And I started there as an admin assistant. I figured, working for the government would be really stable. And it was. And so working as an admin, there was a database administrator that I also serviced. I serviced about 20 different scientists and working with regs and stuff. And wherever they needed help, I was just gung ho to just kind of jump in there and say, hey, can I do this? Because all of the other things I had kind of built a process around to make it go a lot quicker and a lot easier. So I had the time. And so I guess it was a stretch assignment. So that kind of got me more into really IT. And after a year or two, I got a promotion as a database manager and worked within that and became the regional database manager. And having to deal with 8 different states that collect their data that needed to be into the system at a certain time, the quality had to be checked. You've got different people with different things. So that was kind of where my background started, saying there needs to be a better process. It needs to be better communication and a relationship dealing with those diverse state and their programs as far as putting into data management for safe drinking water information. After that, during that time, I was going to school and went to school for my undergraduate in computer science and got on to another company, BellSouth. It was BellSouth Advertising and Publishing at the time. And I was coding COBOL and doing DB2 and managing different environments. So going from an administrator, clerical, to that was pretty big for me. But then once I got there, I was like, this is not really what I wanted to do, because you ended up getting things thrown over the cubicle wall at you that you didn't understand. You didn't know what it was, what was done, what is done. What am I delivering? Is there value in what I'm delivering? And so it became very frustrating for me not being able to talk to the people and really try to figure out exactly what it was that they wanted. So when there was an opportunity, I would go out and actually speak with the end users to gather exactly what it was that they wanted. So that kind of progressed me into doing business analysts and collecting requirements as a business analyst. And then I went to a global grocery retailer, from telecommunication to global retailer, grocery store, grocery chain. And that was the first time I was ever called a project manager. And so I guess that first introduction into that was like, wow, this is pretty cool, because the company that I landed with was absolutely awesome. The mentor that I have had at the time, I still remember her, Cindy. She was great. She was a senior person and she was bringing in all of these junior PMs and she was showing us the ropes. And I was like, I like these ropes. I got, tightrope walking shoes on. And so that's how I got into project management.
That's so awesome. I love to hear that. And so, what I found with project managers. There's sort of two buckets of probably it's too simple to just say two buckets, but like there's people like me who honestly, like I use project management as a tool to do something that does not come easy to me in life. Like I'm actually quite disorganized. You can ask my wife about that. And then there's the other bucket of people that when they find project management, it's like, oh, wow, there's a thing that I'm good at and I'm naturally drawn towards this. And there's actually like a framework for it. Are you one of the first or the second bucket? I think I can guess.
Okay. But what do you get?
I'm going to guess that you were naturally a very organized kid that liked to line things up and have everything structured.
Yes, but I also like to have that framework there so that when there's a need for something different, it fits in.
Mm.
As a child, I started sewing when I was 7, 8 years old because my mom, she sewed. So I knew my dolls needed clothes. So that was the structure. But were they going to be fashionable or was it going to be just straight? And that would depend on what is the pattern on the fabric. Was it big? Was it small? And so being able to determine and make that determination as to whether to make it something flamboyant or just kind of plain and let the fabric speak for itself is what I would consider a gift of mine to bring that I tried to bring into project management whenever, depending on the project or the effort or the program that I'm trying to bring along to create some structure, but allow for some differences that would make it work best within the environment that I'm working in.
I love that. I love that. And I might need a tip or two. I just got a sewing machine. My kids and I are like trying to do stuff together and I am not that skilled yet, but it's a great analogy for project management for sure. What was it like? I mean, because that career path that you just described, it's so different than, this traditional like project coordinator to project manager to program manager to portfolio, like that natural progression
Yeah.
of always being in project management. What was it like to go from like more administrative stuff to like being a coder to then sort of being a facilitator of humans, right? To a negotiator of humans. Like what was that transition like?
For me, it is a transition, but as you say, I am more of the structured person. So it's about, it looks like this over here, but this is what it looks like here. So and when I'm coding and developing in code, I like to put things in, I think, I don't know if it's still called, but object oriented
Yeah.
programming. And so you're starting out with that outline, the high level, and then as you identify what those are, which over in program and project management, they are the milestones. Okay. And so, and then you kind of dig down into each one. So for me, the coding was just almost me isolated with a few group of people, but with project management, there's more and there's more dependency on others to fill in those gaps. So I heard one of your earlier guests talk about people being open to say how much time it will take for them to do something. Well, over in the development space, you have control of how long it's going to take you, and you're reporting to a project manager. So the project management is a step above that to say, now I am not just talking about me and saying and reporting to someone else. I've got to gather it from each SME, subject matter expert or team lead in that technical space, security, what do you call it? Access controls and all of that type
Yep.
of stuff. And so bringing it up and gathering it. And so for me, it then goes back to what I said when I talk about, sewing and designing out a pattern and that type of thing. What do you want it to look like in the end? What are the pieces that need to go with it? The thread, the needle, the type of a stitch. Same thing in development. You've got that object that you're trying to create that will become a part of an overall program. In project management, it's the specialty areas that you have to know enough about or know that the people that you're looking to give you that information back as to what overall it will look like, cost, and time to exhibit, you're actually collecting. So all through my life in project management, I've always kind of related it back to that. And when I'm talking to others that I know that are coming out, I try to ask them, what is it in your life that you're doing that you have to organize? And so think of it in that way. So that for me is, as far as the way that I work, that's what it was like. And to help bridge that gap, because it's not a bridge too far. If that's our,
Yeah.
I think, is that a movie or something? But yeah, it's not a bridge too far to make that connection, to move from admin to development to project management. In my mind, that's how I settle it. And that's how I try to keep going and moving up, and then taking on a strategic view from a program perspective, from a PMO perspective.
Yeah, I love that. And that's a really great way to think about the progression, right? Because you're going from an individual contributor to like sort of this knitter of all the different projects together. I will say, as a non-technical PM who's very technical now, right? But as someone that came from like a non-technical background, I've never gotten paid to write a single line of code. I've worked on plenty of code, but I haven't ever gotten paid to do it. And so, I think people that come from the development side and then move into project management might take for granted how helpful that experience was for them, just to understand how to structure code, right? Like even that is like helpful. And even though you can like vibe code stuff now and blah, 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 like you need that development framework to be able to take the outputs of that and actually like do something with it. And it's the same thing. I think there's so much value in someone having that technical expertise and then leading teams that have to build these things. It's just a different perspective. So
It's a double-edged sword, though.
I know you want to get in the code, right?
Honest. No, I no. You. But I do. I have to, as far as the tools that we now use to conduct project management work and program PMO oversight and that type of thing. And so that comes a little easier for me to work with those tools and to adjust to those tools because I have that background. The double-edged sword part that I was talking about is, because of my technical background, I will push a little more to the team members to be honest about the time frame in which it will take them to do something, having been in that space myself. And so for me, I see myself as a project manager, as an advocate, and a person that clears the way for the technical team to honestly speak and say how long and what the level of effort that is needed for a project, to complete a project, to get to a certain milestone. And that is one of the biggest challenges, because everyone wants to say that they can do this within a certain amount of time, but it's like, be real. Now, just think, I know I didn't like having to get up and in the middle of the night to correct code because I needed to meet a deadline that I gave that was unrealistic. So I'm going to try to say, really, in all seriousness, or let's give ourselves the appropriate amount of time to do the right thing right the first time. And that's not always a very popular thing to hear from a project manager sometimes if your enterprise is not aligned, because then they're saying you're out of scope and you're off budget and you're not on time. I heard one guy in your podcast say, be comfortable in the gray area. That was something I learned. I cannot remember his name, but I love him.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my
Because
goodness. Yeah.
I had not heard it framed that way, but that is very critical in the project management space, and not just for the project manager, but for the entire enterprise. And to understand that otherwise, pretty much that gray space is that planning and really understanding what needs to be done. Failing to plan is planning to fail. I don't care what technology is out there, what tool is out there, it all remains the same and it's all human based.
Love that.
That's my
Love that.
perspective.
Love that. All right. So you've told us about your early days, right? Take us through Project Zero. This is the fun part, right? So for all the listeners who haven't listened to our show before, Project Zero is sort of that first project where you figured out how to be a PM, right? Something clicked or you were forced to figure out something. So anyway, Claudia, what was your Project Zero?
My Project Zero was when I started working as a project manager. I'll use that as the Project Zero officially. And being in that space, and it was a team of, like I said, junior project managers being brought on. We were fresh, but we had a great team lead and mentor that really caught us at every fall. She was awesome. So my failures turned into successes because she caught them and kept them between us. And we were setting up I forgot what you call them, but it was the retail where the planograms, yes, the
Okay.
planograms in the stores, in the various stores, they own various store chains. And so to work with the team that were going to set up the system that was going to hand the planograms for one line stop and shop, I think it was, and Aho was this company. Yeah, I think it's been long enough so that I can say that they owned a bunch of different chains of stores. And so each store, you go into a supermarket, you wanted it to be a certain way. And then the checkouts, the discounts, the sale prices, all of that to go through all of those various systems. So I can't remember exactly which project I worked on, but we would have a couple of them. And learning how to go and talk to those specialty teams and to understand how to back in the resources, back plan, the production turnover meetings that would happen, and how to identify what the failback plans were, getting the sign off. I missed a lot of steps, but what because I was like, well, let's go. But, actually working in that space, moving up from that development. But Cindy was so good in helping us to define that we created a template of possibilities that would be used for all projects. And so if we were going through, we would use those lessons learned. I didn't know that's what they were called,
Sure.
but it's like learn from your mistakes. We would add them to the template and she would have us meet as a team on a regular basis to say, to kind of standardize, this is the thing that we need to look for. These are the questions we need to ask. And we need to acknowledge whether they were not relevant in a particular case. So it helped me to become more thorough in what I was asking. And so we were a pretty good team to be reckoned with, and we were able to get a lot of things done. I learned about the various areas in a project at an enterprise level, huge enterprise level, than I had ever worked in before, which were just sort of like little niches as an individual contributor or a person that passed it along to someone else. But to go from end to end, it was invigorating and confirming of what I wanted to do.
That's awesome. I love that. And I mean, what you described is something that honestly, I think it's a 50-50 shot, right? That you're going to have a mentor that's going to be able to lead you the way that Cindy did for you. And when you have that, it's such a blessing. You learn 5 years of stuff in 1 year, right? Just by having a
Yes.
really good mentor and
Yes.
like making mistakes safely, right?
Yes. Yes. You hear people, you hear executives and whoever said this is, you can fail safely. And it's like, but then when you do, they give you the side eye. Well, no, I wish everybody could have a Cindy.
Uh-huh.
And I know that that's not the case. So when I talk to other people that are, just starting out, and I try to help them to be prepared. But we're all never really totally prepared. But yeah,
Yeah.
to just let them know. But yeah, that first project is sort of like anything, if you're having to try sushi and your first experience is bad, you never ever want to do it again.
That's right.
But if it's great, then you want to find the best sushi place, and you want to always find the best sushi place in whatever location you're going to, because it set the tone. So my first project, my project zero, set the tone that put me on this trajectory, which has been 20 plus years now.
Love that. Claudia, I love that analogy so much. You're full of analogies, but like that analogy is perfect. And I'm like, oh, wow, like that's going in like my charter or something. Like I want to be that first good bite of sushi for whoever
Yes,
works for me. Oh my goodness. I
yes,
love that. I love
yes.
that. Cool. So let's switch gears and talk a little bit about advice. You've already been given advice, but like I want to get very specific. And I always like to ask this
Okay.
question as a PM. What do you think the number one skill is of a project manager? What's that one thing?
Know your place,
Okay.
and it will move from organization to organization, and even within the organization from project to project. And that's along with that gray space that the other guy
Hmm.
talked about. And because what I have found is that depending on where you go and the team that you're relating with, you need to know, what does project management look like to them? And you have to manage around that. So as a project manager, it's 360. It's not just that project, but it's what the perception is for those around you of who you are and what it is you're supposed to do and be, as well as so I guess that's not 360.
You're talking about some
Well,
three-dimensional stuff.
thank you. Okay, I knew it was in there somewhere.
Love it.
But it really is, because it's not just communication, because you can communicate till the cows come home, but the cows came home and they went where they weren't supposed to be. So your communication can land the same way. It's not just relationships, because I can have a great friend relationship, but when it comes to us relating to how to move this project in the direction that we want it to be, that can fail also. So you're managing way more degrees of things, and the perception and the expectation of those around you that are even outside of the project. And also part of that is who is at the top of making the decisions of whether you stay and are needed and valued as a resource within that company, department, or whatever. My experience over the years has been, if, and this is not to down anybody, it's just to say what my experience has been, is that if there is a financial person that is numbers, 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 they're going to look at you as numbers, and you will always be something that is subtracting from what their numbers that they're looking at.
Yep.
So they may not see your value if they don't have a project management from a value of how you make things run efficiently. Things may not go as well as you would like. They will go a different way. You will need to report in a different manner and be able to speak. I heard one of your other guests say, have an entrepreneurial, and I'm the gray area and the understand entrepreneur. Those are real. Those are real. And I wish somebody had told me that earlier, to take that perspective, that 3D perspective, because you need to be able to speak from their level. You can make, sometimes to the detriment of being a project manager, if the financial person is at the top, if you make things run smooth, they don't see your value
Yeah.
because things are running smooth, but you're taking away from what they see as money.
Yep.
If the person at the top, that's the critical decision maker, is one that has a I would say more of an entrepreneurial business efficiency in operations and processes, you have a better chance because they can better see from their perspective how it will actually impact that bottom line. And they can speak on your behalf and the value that you bring to the enterprise, to the financial person. But when that financial person becomes top dog and or the other person does not themselves fully understand the efficiency and the value that you bring, then you are on a ledge. And you need to know that so that you can say in your mind, what is the possibility of my longevity within this environment? No shade on anybody, just know who you are and where you stand in the situation in the project program enterprise that you are in at that moment in time.
I love that career advice. We have a client who new CFO came in, didn't believe in project managers, like literally didn't believe in project managers. And you know what? Everyone got reassigned to a different title name, but they were all still PMing, but it's okay. But yeah, it is. It's funny how that works, right? You know, project management is often looked at as a cost center, but there has been this onset of this new technology that has hit the market the past few years, right? You know, how do you feel like AI is impacting project management right now? What do you think the opportunity is there?
I think the opportunity is awesome. It's great. It's a great opportunity, but I will put it in the same framework as what do they call it? The magic pill. It is not a magic pill. Sort of like some of the tools came on and people thought that, oh, this is going to be it. Even the methodology, you know, it was waterfall and that's been it traditionally named. And then there was agile and everybody thought that was a magic pill. Well, if you don't implement it properly, if you don't take it and incorporate it specifically to what you're doing, and you try to think that you're going to lead people out, then you do that at your peril. You think you're getting the leading edge, but what you're doing, it just looks like the leading edge from the onset. But over time, you won't get the return on your investment. You'll get the decline on your investment.
Yeah.
That's it. You get DOI instead of ROI.
I love it, Claudia. You just invented a new word. I love it. But it's true. We're seeing crazy numbers of, you know, folks just like throwing so much money at AI and it's not doing anything. We're already doing it. And, you know, the places where, you know, all the boring stuff that we do as PMs, like that's all gone now. And it's not perfect. Like the note taking is amazing. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's so accurate. But the boring stuff is gone. That's right. That's right. You know what? Like I tell everyone, it's like, all right, I still take notes on, you know, a handful of things, right? Like what are the major action items? Some leader said something that was really important and we need to make sure we document that decision. And then I check the AI and make sure that they captured that. And, you know, 80% of the time it's right. If anything, it makes too many action items and it's not right.
To me, in the use that I've used it for notes, is it should help us more efficiently get through the discussions that need to be had. Because I'm not spending 3 and 4 hours trying to gather up notes. It's like, no, this is what was captured, you know, and especially if you format the way that you're speaking and running your meeting in using that tool, it helps to line the, oh, sorry, here I go again, structure. But it helps you to say, did we do this or did we not do that? And then using some of the features that are out there, you know, creating a project if you're in Chat GPT to where it'll remember, or if you're in Teams, creating the notebook to where, you know, for each project to help you go along, it should help you be more efficient.
Yeah.
And knowing how to interact with it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm excited about where we're going. So Claudia, this has been so fun. I love the smile. Your laugh's contagious. And I always love catching up with you. Thank you so much for sharing your Project Zero story and all this advice. It's been great.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. And so, Claudia, how can people get in contact with you?
I am there on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So you can just reach out on LinkedIn and I'll be there.
Awesome. We'll drop that in the description as well, that link to Claudia's LinkedIn. And thank you to all of you who have joined us for Project Zero this week. Be sure to subscribe to Project Zero wherever you get your podcasts, and we will catch you next time with another great project leader story.